Let's talk about the emergency fund. You know, it's rule number one in personal finance. But what if that rule is completely broken? In a world that's changed so much that old advice isn't just a little outdated, it can actually be dangerous. So today, we're going to build a new mandate for 2025, one that's designed for the life you actually live. You've heard it a million times, right? Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. But just take a look around at our world now. We've got the gig economy, high-deductible health plans, super specialized careers. So let me ask you, is that simple one-size-fits-all rule really going to cut it anymore? The short answer, it's a hard no. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to completely tear down that old broken rule. Then we'll build a solid new foundation by figuring out what we're really saving for. After that, we'll find your personal emergency number, customize it for your specific life, and finally, we'll get to the best part, discovering the ultimate goal of all this, which you'll see has a lot less to do with emergencies and a lot more to do with freedom.
All right, let's dive right in. The old rule is broken. But why? Well, because it treats everyone the exact same way. The freelancer, the CEO, the new grad, and let's be real, our financial lives are anything but one size fits all.
Just look at the shift in thinking right here. We are moving away from a static, simple number and towards something that's alive and dynamic. See, the new mandate is segmented, it's based on your personal risk, and it's tailored to your life. It changes and adjusts right along with you. Okay, so if we're going to build a new rule, we have to start with a rock-solid foundation. Before we even start talking about dollar amounts, we need to get crystal clear on why we're saving and exactly what costs we're trying to cover. Get this part right, and trust me, everything else just clicks into place. And that why is, well, it's incredibly powerful. Check this out. The data shows that just getting a $2,000 buffer in place boosts your feeling of financial well-being by a massive 21%. This isn't just about money, you know? It's about reducing stress. It's about buying yourself some psychological insurance. And this brings us to a super important distinction. This money is for survival, not for maintaining your lifestyle. I'm serious. Forget dinners out. Forget all your subscriptions. We are talking about the absolute bare bones essentials, your rent or mortgage, your lights and water, insurance, basic food, and your minimum debt payments. That's the list, period. And finding that number is actually way simpler than you might think. For just 1 month, track every single dollar that you spend. Then you sort it all into 2 buckets, essential and everything else. That essential total, boom, that's your monthly number.
Okay, now here is a really critical modern twist that so many people miss. Healthcare. Listen up. If you have one of those high-deductible health plans, your first savings goal isn't 1 month of expenses, it's your full insurance deductible. You have to have that amount saved before you even start building your larger fund. Why? Because that is your single biggest, most immediate financial landmine.
Okay, with that foundation laid, let's get to the core of this new model. We're going to use a tiered system to help you find your personal emergency fund number. So if you're just starting out, or maybe you're wrestling with some high-interest debt, this is you. This is Tier 1. Your one and only goal is to get a $1,000 to $2,000 buffer in place. That's it. Think of this small amount as your shield. It's what stops a simple car repair from instantly becoming a high-interest credit card disaster.
This leads to a very clear protocol. Step 1, save that initial buffer. It's mandatory. It comes first. Step 2, once that shield is secure, you go to war with high-interest debt. You attack it with everything you've got. The return you get from wiping out a 20% APR credit card is just unbeatable. And then only after that debt is gone do you move to step 3 and focus on building out your full fund.
All right, now let's talk Tier 2. This is the target for most people who have a steady job. But look at the range here. On the low end, just covering the bare essentials for a family of 4, not even including housing, requires almost $13,000 for 6 months. But if you want to cover an average lifestyle, that number jumps way up to over $38,000. Your personal target is probably going to land somewhere between this floor and that ceiling.
But what if you're a high earner, or you're in a very specialized field? Well, for you, the standard advice isn't just a little off, it's described as woefully inadequate. The risks you face are in a completely different league. And that leads us to Tier 3. The new gold standard isn't 6 months, it's 18 months of fixed expenses. 18, I know, it sounds like a lot, right? But why so much? Because replacing a high-level, specialized job can easily take over a year. And this fund is about so much more than just survival. It's about career strategy. Let's think of it as career gap insurance. An 18-month fund gives you the power to say no to a bad offer. It allows you to negotiate from a position of strength, not desperation. It literally buys you the time, the freedom, to find the right next move, not just any next move. But those tiers are just starting points. To make this truly powerful, we have to add the final layer, personalization. This is where you adjust your number based on the unique risks and realities of your own life.
And here's where you need to be honest about your situation. Are you a freelancer with unpredictable income? You're going to need a bigger buffer. Think 9 to 12 months. In a niche industry where jobs are scarce, plan for 6 to 9. And if you're retired, that buffer grows to 12 to 24 months. That's to protect you from something called sequence of returns risk, which is just a fancy way of saying you want to avoid being forced to sell your investments when the market is down. Now, for anyone aiming for those larger funds, here's an advanced strategy. Not all of it has to sit in cash, earning next to nothing. The goal is to build what you can call a financial eject button, a way to get cash when you need it without derailing your long-term plans. So here's how it works. While you're still employed and your finances are strong, you set up these lines of credit. It could be a home equity line of credit, which borrows against your house, or maybe something called a pledged asset line, which is a loan against your investment portfolio. The key is that setting these up now gives you access to cash later, so you're never ever forced to sell your best investments at the absolute worst time. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important point. We need to completely reframe how we think about this pile of cash. It isn't a burden, it's a tool. It's a tool for liberation. I want you to really let this quote sink in. The emergency fund is fundamentally a mechanism for purchasing freedom. Freedom from debt, freedom from a bad boss, freedom from making decisions out of fear. So I'll leave you with this question. Forget the numbers for a second and just imagine, if your personalized fund was full today, what choices would you suddenly have? What would you do differently? That answer? Well, that's why this is all so important. Thanks for tuning in.